everyone. Welcome to Lunchtime with Demons. I'm Bella Caress, and I'm here with Ryan Stone as always. And we're so excited to have you. Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Bella. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's been a long week. I spent my morning at the gym and then the I went to go see Lady Woodstock, which is a newish goddess that has risen in Woodstock, New York. Um, and I've been very fascinated by it. So I started to, I went on an adventure and documented my experience and put it on the Patreon this morning. But it was a fun morning. And then I treated myself to some lunch and grabbed Juniper. And now I'm here with you.
Here we are. Yeah, it looked like a fun little adventure. I caught bits and pieces of it over the Patreon. So looking forward to looking at your video afterwards.
It was. There was a lot of bugs because it was outside in the woods. Yeah. Not that I don't like bugs, but I don't like bugs.
Fair.
You know, you know what I
An
mean?
inundation of bugs can be difficult rather
Yeah.
than just having bugs around.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a lot of bugs. And she's associated with bees, and there were a lot of bees. And that's fine, except that I'm allergic to bees. So I was like, cool. I don't want to die. I have an EpiPen in my bag, but I was like, I would like to not get stung by a bee.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, the bad part is that, you can be stung by multiple bees and then it could become really difficult. So I get that too.
yeah,
More
yeah,
than just a sting.
exactly. But it was nice. And if you watch the video, I cry through the whole thing. So yay, enjoy it. You know, shocking, shocking. I cry. Um, anyways, I'm excited to have our conversation today. Today, we're gonna get real basic and we're gonna talk about love and light.
I think it's a good topic.
It is. Because it's not actually basic.
Yeah, and I do think it gets I do think there's an aspect of it that gets a bad rap, and then there's an aspect of it that kind of owns some of that bad rap.
Yeah. Should we talk about the good or the bad first? Let's talk about the bad first.
Sure, if you want.
Yeah, let's get the bad out of the way. Well, I like to end on things
Yeah,
on.
that way we end on like the upsides and the things that we see, that are beneficial.
Yeah. I think the bad side is when we demonize anything.
I agree.
I mean, it's like we're biased. But because of the rise of this sort of light and darkness, having moral um oh my gosh, what's that word?
More connotations like to it.
Yes. Yeah. And so then you have this sort of fight of good and evil and light and darkness. And when all of those ideas get compiled, it really demonizes the darkness, which is something that, for many reasons, we don't want to do. Um, and on top of that, it it also gives people this like false sense of power when they feel like they're living their life in accordance with this idea of love and light and like the purge of the darkness. And they end up actually just sort of casting shadows upon other people, which is like ironic.
It is an irony that they're using the light to cast shadows on other people because of their moral overlay, as opposed to seeing them in the beautiful cosmic dance that is light and dark that we see everywhere.
Yeah, it really became for a while, and still is, that sort of like live, laugh, love version of witchcraft, where like you would see like signs that say like live, laugh, love in people's houses or like in like a home goods, and then people make fun of it now. And that is what happened in, I would say, the occult or like in witchcraft as a whole, is that it became this very like love and light became almost like a, a calling card for someone not taking you seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, it was used as like a negative thing to say to somebody.
Yeah, it really was. It really is still in many ways. In many ways it is. And it's it's interesting. It's almost a joke to say.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
has become that, I think, socially, and I think most people know it, kind of like the Karen sort of reference of things.
Yeah. And there's also an issue of people using it not just to cast shadows, but using it as like an opportunity to guide other people without actually, what is that called? When you don't actually let someone like learn the lesson, or you don't actually let someone like engage in the emotions or the pain. It's like spirit, it's like bypassing.
Oh yeah, the spiritual like bypassing. Yes, I
Yeah,
agree. I
yeah.
feel like that's what I mean. A lot of the problematic side is that it all has to be, happiness and light, and you can't have bad days, and you can't have, darkness, and then the moral overlay of that darkness is sadness or working through things and casting
Hmm.
out your shadow side as opposed to embracing
Mm,
one's shadow side and understanding that that is a part of you too. We don't cut pieces of ourselves off to grow. We grow.
hmm. Literally. But yes, it's yeah, it's that idea that like depression is of the blank, it's of the darkness, it's of the shadow, it's of the devil, it's of all the things that you're trying to purge from your life, and you're only allowed to have left this love and light. Um and it makes people feel safe. It makes people feel like they have control in their practice and in their life, because they're always seeking um the light. Now here's the thing. I feel like I am actually always seeking the light. That's what's actually really interesting about my own practice. um and that's why I wanted to make this a discussion, because I think that there needs to be a reclamation of love and light. And with that reclamation is going to come uh it's going to come sort of a defense against the defamation of the term as a whole. So we need to understand what it is we're actually saying when we are discussing love and light. And that's why we're having this discussion, because I want to talk about what it's not, and I want to talk about what it actually is. What it's not is an opportunity to bypass other, like, spiritual and emotional and physical parts of the human experience and human condition. You cannot do that. It is not going to happen. It's not going to happen anyway. You could try. You could bullshit your way through that all you want, but it's not going to happen. I
Yeah,
don't know
there
a
comes a
single
day
person.
where yeah, you're challenged by the reality of being a human being. I mean, it's
Yes.
realistically, I think that happens whether that like anything that you feel is so solid that is going to guide you through all of this, you will have a day that will crumble and you will be upset about everything you thought was so solid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. Um, it's, you know, we and even still, okay, looking at the shadow work and looking at light work, both are work. And that's another thing that I think got removed from the idea of love and light, was the removal of light work. And you'll hear people say, I'm a light worker. I'm sure our listeners have heard that term before, but I don't know. Do you know? I'm asking you, this is rhetorical since you're a listener. You can't actually respond to me, but answer this to yourself. Do you know what light work is? Because a lot of people don't, and especially people in the occult. We're fucking kings and queens of shadow work. We'll talk to you all day about what it is to cry in your shit, sit in your shit, and feel terrible about it. But when it comes to light work, working with the light, working with that sort of type of expansive energy, I don't think people really know what that is. And I've been in it for about 6 months. I've been in deep, deep, deep light work for about 6 months now. And I keep talking about this like 6 month transformation that I've been in, and that this 1 year goal transfer, like this 1 year of transformation that I'm in right now. You guys hear me talk about it all the time. I'm talking about it on purpose. It is not um to get you on the train, but it is to, and honestly, it's one, to because it's my experience and I want to share it. But two, I've never done work like this before. This is relatively new for me. To, I feel like I'm literally changing my coding. If I, that's the best word I have for it, but like internal coding, internal parts of myself every single day. And that is a part of light work. And this is really interesting. And it shouldn't shock people that I'm doing this work, being that I'm a high priestess of Lord Lucifer. And but yet people are shocked when I say like, no, I've been in like deep, deep, deep light work. And they're like, you mean shadow work? And I'm like, well, that is a natural part of light work. Yes, I am obviously faced with the shadow work of this other work that I'm doing. So yes. But the concept of light work, well, it varies. Okay. It's going to vary from culture to culture, and it's going to vary depending on which, this is another fucking thing we can get into. Let's get into the thicket of this real fast before I go into how I'm working with the light. But the way that, I don't want to say new age spiritualism, that really, I will say I have a little bit of beef with calling something new age spiritualism because it has a negative connotation to it. I don't think anything new is negative. I'm a revisionist, guys. So I'm someone that you could literally come to me and be like, I don't know, I fucking hate everything. I'm knocking it all down and I'm creating my own religion. And I'd be like, good for you. I literally would. That's how I am. So I find it difficult to find that because something is new, it is automatically bad. What I'm saying is it is not bad, but when something is new and it adopts something without consideration for the antithesis of it, or the other side of it, or the duality of it, or the dual nature of it, or the side of the coin, if they're like, oh, this is my new religion and we only believe in tails. There's no head side of the coin, but we flip this coin every day. And I'm like, yeah, but then you're always landing on tails. And they're like, yeah, that's just a part of our religion. And I'm like, cool, that's just not for me. Thank you. So that doesn't mean that I disagree with a lot of like new age spiritualists. I I actually somewhat enjoy hearing about it, but I disagree when something is very like one-sided.
I agree. That to me is where the bypassing comes in, is that you're going to cherry pick the idea that you resonate with and then not encounter any of the duality of it, the other aspects of it, of where its origins and things come from, that I think is problematic and difficult to feel like there's a genuine nature to it.
Exactly. But at the same time, it's actually kind of lovely because basically what's happened is you have a bunch of people who have cherry picked from a bunch of different types of practices. And I mean it's lovely because then you're getting exposure to things. But on the flip side, there's no other side of the coin. It's cherry picked all tails from every single path. They've taken only the good, only the it's like toxic positivity.
That's what it becomes basically, is like toxic positivity when you're just picking like one side of it.
Exactly. And so they basically chose everything that's good from everything and then pieced it together. And then they were like, this is what we observe and only what we observe. And uh, I think that that's tricky because it doesn't leave room for growth. Growth requires the darkness. Seeds grow in dark soil and deep, dark, moist, fertile soil. And so it doesn't really allow you to expand. There's no pressure. There's no room for growth. In my opinion. This is just my opinion. Take it or leave it, you know?
I think it makes it very difficult to grow. I mean, look at the universe. The universe is made up of mostly darkness with light traveling from area to area. from one
Mhm.
star to the next, or um, so foundationally, I feel like it is an undercurrent that would make things feel lacking if it wasn't there.
Mhm. Exactly.
Just as much as the light. But I mean, I try to sit in a more middle point and middle ground of all
Mhm.
things, and thinking
Yeah,
that they all have places, within me, without me, outside of me.
I agree. I agree. I think that we should sit in a middle ground unless we're trying to work on something. And
Yeah.
and if you're being proactive about pr working on something particular, you can look at that particular thing that you're trying to work on and understand that you're going to experience both moments of something while you're growing or changing or evolving. You're going to have work that you do that is light work. You're going to have work that you do that is shadow work. You're going to experience both, very much like the yin yang. There is the way of something. It's natural nature, like the way nature wants it to move. And then when we decide to go faster or go or kind of challenge ourselves, then we are directly engaging with the deeper side of the yin or the deeper side of the yang. We're engaging with the circles, and we're engaging with one or the other. Um, or both. And it's always going to be both. And honestly, there's moments I have a really good example of this where it was light and shadow. It was light work and shadow work, literally the exact same moment today. And it was like one after the other. It was so wild. It was like I felt the transition and I felt it as a teachable moment too. So I was like, oh, I have to like lock in and like lock this in so I can share it. Um, so typically when we think of light work, it's referring to, excuse me, and I'm going to speak from a place of like what it should be referring to necessarily versus like how it's been convoluted or pressed into something specific. Um, I've worked with a lot of people who would call themselves light workers, and they're people that typically work with angelic energy. Oh my gosh, my throat is so sore right now. Or they work with a lot of angels. Um, you do not need to work with angels. You do not need to pursue that path to do light work. That is literally like saying that working with demons is only shadow work, that they are only capable of shadow work. And that is not true. Again, everything, whether you are doing Enochian magic or Solomonic magic, or you're working with angels in like a non-traditional fashion, or you're working with the infernal divine in a non-traditional fashion, you are working with dual energy. You're working with energy that is not, it is neither. It is not all light, it is not all darkness. It is all things. It is all energy. So before we throw it in a box, if we were to look at it outside of a box, it would be something that is intended to promote healing. But it promotes healing. So imagine you just did some shadow work. The light work would be the part of that that is now taking the lesson you learned and applying that and promoting healing in the body. So, how do you actually apply the shadow work that you just experienced, the lesson that you just experienced? And that work right there requires an immense amount of love and compassion. And it is through the hyper attention to love and compassion that you experience growth and self awareness, where you're integrating the shadow work that you did. That's called light work. So don't run from this term. If we can claim shadow work, we can claim light work. We don't have to claim either. We can just say that we're healing. But if you want to be more specific about the type of healing that you're doing, I want this is why I think I'm just going to say this real quick before I keep going. Terminology, having something to say, like having words to put to something, gives you power. It gives you power. Knowing something gives you power. And it's all I'm ever trying to do here with you guys is just give you more power in your practice. So you feel like you have more control over what you're experiencing in your life and you don't feel out of control, but you feel like you have these tools because they're tools. So if you were someone like my friends who have called themselves light workers, they called me the shadow worker when I was in LA. And I was like, guys, that's not nice. But they were people that were like, well, I'm always about like emotionally supporting people and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, me too. Like these are, they don't make you, it doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you kinder. It doesn't make you any of those things. Just be careful of that. But I want to just say that everything that you would do as a teacher of shadow work is the same type of work you would do as a teacher of light work. They are the same. You have to engage in being supportive, you have to engage in being encouraging, and you have to engage in sort of helping someone along. So whether you are a mentor in light work or a mentor in shadow work, you're literally going to be doing the exact same work. The only time that light work becomes different is when you're doing it for yourself or you're being specific about how you're teaching it, because you wouldn't necessarily be guiding them through the shadow work, the difficult part. Because light work is still difficult, and I'm going to talk about the difficulties of light work, but you wouldn't be guiding them through the more painful parts, because sometimes shadow work can be a little painful. Even though the story I'm going to share is a really unique story about shadow work and light work, because I think it might help you understand that pain is not necessarily always perceived the exact same way. But there are lots of different traditions, I think, that view light work as being hyper specifically connected to something else. It's the same way that people super see shadow work as being connected to something else. You don't have to subscribe. I always feel like that's really important to like help people understand that. Like it's yeah. So, say you're experiencing sort of like grief and you're going through the motions of grief and you're crying and you're feeling numb and you're thinking about all the memories and all those memories are really boiling up to the surface and you're navigating them. It is the choice in being compassionate to the self. And it is when you have the narrative rise to the surface that can be self um like what is the word, deprecating,
Mhm.
um that you then do the work to come up against it, and that's what I mean by it's not easy, and so we're gonna go into that. But I also want to say that the communities that emphasize this love and light idea, they're seeing it like it's like there's almost like an initiatory process to it. They've brought in this very like Christianized perspective of like, in order to be a light worker, you have to be initiated by XYZ. You have to prove yourself to be someone who carries the light. This is what I'm saying. Don't subscribe to that. We all carry the light. We are light as much as we are darkness. We are all things. We are made up of the void. We are made up of consciousness. Consciousness is the spark of creation. That spark lives in you and it is bright and it shines and it cannot be snuffed, just as much as you are made up of the darkest matter that has no name. So, really understanding, really understanding that deep, deep wisdom does not come from rejecting either part of us, but rather accepting those parts of us and navigating both of them and honoring both works. So that way you can live in a place of peace, because peace and surrender come after both of these types of work have been accomplished. And you'll have phases in your life where you'll go into deep shadow work phases. And you won't even pay attention to the light work that you're doing to integrate that or the lack thereof. And that's
Yeah.
really when you spiral with a deep shadow work dive and no work to counter it. That's why I'm talking about this, because I think this is pivotal to doing the work that we do, especially with the Infernal Divine, especially with them, being that they are so good at shadow work.
Yeah, I mean, I think of much of the work is the shadow becomes that very internal work that we do that is often unseen by others. And then the light work, and this is actually the interesting thing, I think is the part that people do usually witness because that's when you're practicing and making those changes in your life and the way that you approach life and things like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why sometimes it feels like it is this prominent thing because it's what can be seen. But it's just like that seed that spent all that time growing roots and in the soil while nobody was watching or could see any of that foundation being built. And now all of a sudden there's this little sprout that's up above the surface and we can see that. And that to me is, very similar to the work between both and together.
That's when the work starts together.
Yeah.
You break the surface of the soil, and then your roots are still under the soil, pulling in those fucking nutrients and the water, doing their root work, doing the work underneath the surface. And then the light is doing its work, photosynthesizing and like
Present.
feeding and growing and shining onto that plant. It requires both.
Yes. In
Without,
unison.
yeah, in unison, exactly, in unison. This, yes, 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 yes. So I want to share my unison moment because this was a unison moment. And I'm telling you, it took 6 months to get to this place. This is the first time in 6 months I felt this. And it was such a win for me. It really was. And I want to celebrate it. I'm going through I'm going through a situation at home that I've not openly talked about yet, because it is not fully situated. Um, I think if you're not a complete, not completely, um, I, I, I don't know how to say this. I am navigating difficulties with people in my life that I love. And that is really hard. And make with that what you will. Um, it should be rather obvious. Make all the conclusions or assumptions you would like. I don't really give a shit how you project upon me. Something incredible happens when the person you love the most in the world becomes one of the greatest lessons of your life. You don't give a fuck about how anyone else perceives you suddenly. It's incredible and horrible. This work didn't start just because of the decline in a relationship in my life. It started because of the decline with my relationship with my health and my understanding of my health and my understanding of myself and the way I prioritized myself and the way I prioritized every other fucking person in my life. And for what? For what? Because you know what I got is a silver platter filled with shit for that. Um, now I would like to be really clear. I have some really incredible friends in my life, and I'm really, really grateful for the people that I have in my life. That I have some soul family in my life that I don't have to ever wonder or question if they're going to be a part of my experience. And even if they weren't, even if like 4 weeks from now, if any of those soul family reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, I'm stepping away from this friendship," I'd be like, "Okay, I love you. I'll see you when we die." I would understand. I wouldn't even care because I would know that we're connected through our souls. So I would like to just start with a little bit of gratitude. And I would also like to start with gratitude for just for the love in my life that is complicated right now, because there is a lot of love there. And that's what's making this situation even more difficult, is that there's an immense amount of love. Um, when I started my journey in January, it was a journey of self love. I'm still on it, and it's a year-long journey. It's a fierce journey because it's at all cost. That was the contract, and this is an actual contract that I made. This is a very serious contract that I have drawn up to devote my life, and on the honor of my priesthood and the honor of everything that I am, to self love, and understanding it. What I didn't expect was that it wasn't going to be hyper focused on the hard parts of my past, but rather the integration of the present, which, AKA, became hyper light work that I got thrown into very fast, which meant lots of discipline. I don't know if you guys know this, but I like to call Lucifer secretly the Lord of Order, because obviously I think Lucifer is just one of his many names. So when I feel like referring to him in a way that is not his name, I just say, "Oh, says the Lord of Discipline, or the Lord of Order, or the Lord of Consciousness, or the light, spark of creation." And that irony there, the light, the knowledge, the spark of creation, he's more than just that. He is the Lord of this process, this integrative process that's happening right now. He lords over it. He is the Lord of the discipline that makes this work. The light that's shining, that light has to show up every fucking day. It may be cloudy, but it's behind those clouds. That sun rises and it falls, but it fucking rises. And there's no excuses outside of that, because there is an ecosystem that relies on that. That sun stops shining, this whole planet dies. And he reminds me of that every day when I don't want to do something. And he says, "You'll do it tired. You'll do it sad. You'll do it mad, but you'll fucking do it." And I'm doing it. And I don't miss days. There are days he tells me, "You're allowed to miss today," because I can't stop crying or whatever it was, or I cried so hard that I vomited or haven't eaten or whatever. And he's like, "Today you take off. Today you rest." It is not easy work. And as you transform in the light and you're watching yourself grow and get stronger, and you feel your roots underneath you get deeper and stronger, you're not looking at the roots, but you feel them. I feel the shadow work that's happening, but I'm not seeing it, because this work is hyper focused on the plant itself. So I'm seeing my leaves unfurl, and I'm seeing my stalk thicken, and it's very unique because I keep joking that I photosynthesize now. I feel the current of the way people speak to me now, or the way some reciprocity is very important to me now suddenly, because it's important because it's what I exist on. I've learned to exist on it now. And so without it, I recoil very much immediately. If I don't feel reciprocity in an engagement, in a relationship, I back up. I will leave it. I will disengage and leave the relationship as a whole. These are things that are so foreign to me, so new. And so today, I was driving to see Our Lady Woodstock, and I left the gym, and I typically cry at the gym because I'm moving a lot of energy, and I use that energy at the gym to transmute. I always have like a moment or two on a leg press where a couple tears fall, or whatever it is. And I noticed that I wasn't really crying today, but I was just staring at the ceiling. It was this very numb feeling, and I couldn't figure out why I was so numb. And I tried to move energy. There was no blockages, but it just wasn't moving through my body. It was just sitting. And I got in the car and I was driving, and I was thinking about something that was said to me. And it was a reference to past me before January. And it felt like they were talking to me, but they were talking to me about a different person. And I didn't know how to respond because I can't respond for that person anymore. And I feel sad for that person, that past version of me. I empathize and I have so much compassion for that past version of me because they were doing the best that they could, but that's not who I am. And yet I knew that saying that would fall on deaf ears because the person that I'm speaking to, in order to receive that, would have had to have actually engaged in work similar to the work that I'm doing to be able to understand when someone says to you, I am not that person anymore. But how can they when they have no reference for not being the same person when they've remained the same person? So I felt trapped, held accountable for something that a past version of me was. And the irony was that I didn't do anything, even in the past. So I looked at what was said and I thought, how dare you? She was doing the best she could. And on top of that, you were giving her 4%. She deserved 100. No wonder she couldn't give you the 100 you wanted. Because she didn't know how to fill her own cup. And you never once pushed her to prioritize herself. You would rather just let her get eaten alive. And so I just felt rage and then nothing. And that is something that I would typically work out in the gym. It was so strange. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'm confused. Maybe I'm so confused and baffled by this that, oh, maybe maybe that's why I can't access big emotions on this. And I was driving and I was crying, but I didn't know I was crying. There was no sniffles. There was no, like, I was just driving. I didn't even notice how long I was driving. This is kind of scary. I didn't notice what songs were playing. I didn't notice anything. I just noticed that I was driving. And then when I got to a stoplight, I was crying. I was like, "Oh my God, I've been crying. I've been crying." And I became aware that I was crying. And I was like, "Okay." And my next thought was, I'm so grateful to have this truck. I'm so grateful that I have a job. I used to work 4 jobs just to be able to pay my bills, that I have a job where I do what I love. And I get to record the podcast later. And I get to go, I'm on my way to go talk to a goddess in the woods. And I'm so grateful for this truck that King Belial helped me get. And I'm so grateful that my daughter is safe and healthy and that I have myself. And I was like, what is happening? What am I crying over? Am I crying over the fact that I'm happy? Or am I crying over the fact that I'm hurt? What is it? And I very much felt Lucifer say, "Oh, it's both. It's all of it. It's all of it at once. You're above ground now, kid. Like this is what it's like above ground. This is what it's like when you meet in the middle of the yin and yang. It's the strangest feeling. I just was feeling sorry for myself. There's no victimization. There's sadness in the truth of what's happening in one circumstance, and then the overwhelming joy of gratitude for what's happening in another. And it was just the wildest feeling. And so when this work is done properly, with the integration of both, you will feel a myriad of emotions all at once. and and sometimes I feel like a lunatic, in that moment I kind of felt a little crazy because I was like, what the fuck is this? Um and I chuckled to myself, and then the next song was Bohemian Rhapsody, and the first lyrics are, is this the real life or is this just fantasy? And I just laughed. How could I not? And it brought me so hyper present. I've been so hyper present. I have to stay in this hyper present place with this type of work because if I don't, it gets too heavy. Um, but there is a wholeness to you that you'll start to experience when you do this work in conjunction with one another instead of constantly just seeking the shadow work or seeking the light, but rather seeking the human experience and allowing all emotions to exist inside of you at once and meeting people where they are, even if that means they don't ever see you for you. If they don't ever meet you for you, if they can't ever love you, you have to meet them where they are. You can't drag them along. You can't make them do the work with you. You can't make them appreciate the work that you've done or see the work that you've done. That it's not going to happen. It's got to be all for you. It's the most selfish, selfless thing you'll ever do. Your cup will be so full that you'll have so much to give, and you'll be shocked when you look around and how few stay by you for you to give back to. But that's kind of cool because then you see the few that stuck around and then you can fill their cup. And it's very cool. But this is important work. Ugh. Healing work is important work. You work is important work. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do very much know what you mean.
Yeah.
That balance of things and emotions and not judging them or gauging them and all the other myriad of things that go with the human experience when you can just accept.
Yeah. Surrender.
Yeah, that's
I,
what surrender looks like.
yeah. And with that, I've never been more in alignment with the divine. It's, I mean, literally, that song came on. I turned the corner and there was a car that said Oswego on it, which I lived there for a little while. And then there was a car that said a license plate directly to my left that oh my God, I can't think of what it's called now, but it's like a really weird island. And it's the name of the island that I can't say. Fucking right. And I was in a show in LA called In Circles, I think it was called. It was at the Odyssey Theater. And if you look it up, you'll fucking find me, I'm sure. And I had to sing this song and it talked about this island. And my director like hated the fact that I couldn't say the name of the island. And the license plate had the name of the island. And I was like, fuck,
Is it
what?
Ibiza?
No.
No,
There's with a
sorry.
T.
Oh, T.
Uh-huh. If you said it, I would be like, yeah, that's it. Um, but I was like, oh, okay, like what? Like that island of all things. Like but I thought about that song, and that song is about these two lovers. They're singing to each other and how they could go to this place together. And I was like so heartbroken at this moment as I was driving and like I saw that license plate and I was like, what are the chances? Right after seeing that Oswego thing and then having this moment and then like hitting shuffle and it's like, is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Like this sort of acknowledgement of my headspace with music. And honestly, Bohemian Rhapsody is like very specific to me and Lucifer. Like it was a song he played for me in a very traumatic moment when I was a child that he now uses every single time I'm having like a really huge breakthrough moment. He'll find a way to play that song even if I'm like in a grocery store and I'm having a break, he's done it. Like I was having a huge moment once at a store and then it started playing overhead and I was like, oh my God. So like it's a very important song to he and I. And so it was really cool that it came on and I was like, oh, I'm so in alignment right now, even though I'm so fucked up. Like but I guess my advice if you want to stay in alignment is to stay present with yourself, honest with yourself, like really honest and compassionate with yourself. Allow the integration process to move quickly And you do that by allowing the light to come in after you've, looked at the painful parts. Um, it's exhausting.
It's a
This is
little exhausting.
every fucking day, man. Every day. Every day. I wake up and I'm like, okay, what are we changing today? And that's why I say like I call it codes. And I know that people are probably thinking I'm talking about light codes. I'm not. I'm talking about like consciousness coding in our body. I'd like to think of it like computer coding. Like if my consciousness is at one level of expansion, as I evolve, I it changes and all of that coding changes. And so every day I feel like I'm like in sessions with them, like what's new. And then they're like, go to bed. And then I get like an upload, like a computer fucking upload every single day. And then I deal with something new the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? But I committed to this work for 1 year. And so it's a lot.
Mm.
Anyways, love though, the irony about the love part of the light. We talked about the light, but we don't have a ton of time to talk about the love part. But I very much see love as being universal, like as sort of a law. And I'm gonna do an episode on the Emerald Tablets, the lost secrets of Toth, reviewing the hidden teachings of the Emerald Tablets. Um, which is really controversial. And you know me, I love to talk about things that are controversial. But the tablets talk a lot about the children of the light, and they talk a lot about choosing the light. And we'll go into why that's controversial, and obviously you can already pick up on why. But what I love about that is this idea that we are seeking this part of ourself that is healed. We're seeking this part of ourself that is, and I hate to use the word healed because we're never healed. The healing is not linear. And so we're always in this healing progression. But I love the idea that we're seeking it, we're seeking healing in its progression, um, at all costs. And he talks a lot about that. And he doesn't talk about love, but I want to talk about love because he talks about time and he talks about the lords of time and he talks about the cycles of time and he talks about light. Okay. Very, really heavily in these tablets. But as I have engaged with energies and divinity and all forms and no forms, as close to universe and source energy as possible, as I believe I have conversed with, um, there are things that feel very law to me, that feel like they are literal parts of consciousness. And love is one of them. And I don't mean love like LOVE, like cutesy Valentine's Day, which is my favorite holiday. I mean love as in like if that is not a part of your progression for yourself, you cannot expand to the heights in which you're trying to reach, and you will not get the things that you want in this life. Love has to be a part of it. And abandonment of the self is not love. Abandonment of the self in the name of others is not love. Saying I love this person so much, I'm doing all of this for them that I'm willing to leave myself and abandon myself, that is not love. And that took me a very long time. And I've lost everything in the process of discovering that. But you know what I found? That truth.
I
That
think love
truth.
is such an important part of expansion.
Yeah.
To me, it's like one of the most expansive things that exist in consciousness.
Yeah. It is. Whether it is romantic or platonic or whatever, it moves. It moves. It's the key to so much.
Yeah,
Hate
for me, it
doesn't.
transcends physical time, all of those things. It has its own
Mhm.
continuity.
Yeah. Even anger. This is one of my some people are like, "Oh, you don't like hate. Why? Because it's angry?" I said, "No. Anger is filled with love. What are you talking about? Anger is an emotion. There's a lot of love in anger, typically, because typically behind anger is sadness." I said hate. Hate moves slow, and it is not a law. It is a choice, and it does not evolve. It is stagnant, stale energy. That's why people call it a low frequency. I do not care if you agree with me on this or not. Like, float your boat. I'm not here to humble you. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just telling you from my experience in the way that I've engaged with energy as a medium. I have engaged with hate. I have engaged with pettiness. I have engaged with judgmentalness, comparison. I've engaged with these shallow, petty energies. I've engaged with them a lot. They do not expand. They are lack energies. They are the parts of you that do not move, meaning they don't resonate, meaning they don't expand, meaning they are there to teach you a fucking lesson. They are your lessons. Look at them. Let them break you open, and you will find love for yourself and for others on the other side of it. But I'm not gonna sit here and not talk about this anymore, because that truly, those energies, those are the problems. That's the problem. It's not anger. It's not big emotions. Have all the big emotions in the world. I'm angry all the time. I was very fucking angry this morning. Rage. I'm not joking when I say rage went through my body. Rage went through my body, but it's mine. It's mine to feel. It was the rage of being misunderstood, but it's mine to feel. Their misunderstanding me does not mean anything about who I am. It doesn't change the work that I've done. It's their projection against me. And yes, I'm allowed to feel sad that they don't see me, because I'm right here and I just want to be seen. Everyone does. And I'm allowed to feel rage. But to allow that rage to extend beyond me is a choice. To extend beyond me to another person is a choice. And I think it's circumstantial. I want to just say that. Like, if you're being abused or hit or beaten or fucking somebody hurt, physically harm someone, I think our emotions change when our lives are at risk or things are at risk. Um, when your livelihood it becomes at risk, things change. But if this person is not directly harming you, and I don't mean like, and guys, spare me the whole like they cast their spells on me and now my money, they're harming my livelihood because of their spells. If they're that powerful, then you're fucked. Because I highly doubt that they are. But that's how I roam. Um, and maybe they are in your world. I don't know. But if they are not directly harming you, choose something else. Choose something more expansive of an energy to work with. But allow yourself to feel your truth. You can think all those things. I'm going to see someone on Saturday that honestly, I want to be so petty about seeing this person. I do. He's kind of a dick. This is not the person I was talking about earlier. This is a separate person. This is my ex. I'm gonna see him on. It's an ex I don't ever talk about, but I'm gonna see him on Saturday, and there's definitely a part of me that's like wanting to be petty. It's my emotion. It's not gonna get me anywhere. I have to work through it. The reason why I want to be petty is because he hurt me. He made me sad. I need to be a big girl, put my big girl pants on, and just get over that. And I'm not going to be petty. I'm going to be, I'm going to work through this before I see him. Not for him, for me. And this is what I want you guys to understand. It's not for the other person, it's for you. It's for that internal peace. It's to meet the inner child in you that's offended and hurt. It's to meet that inner teen that's hurt. It's to meet that person that's grieving or sad or doesn't feel seen or doesn't feel heard. It's to meet them with truth. And when you do that, you typically don't need or have that urge to extend your projection outward. But you know me, how I feel about projections. I could have a whole fucking episode on that. But I get projected against a lot. So because people see me on the internet and they're like, I know her. I'm like, no, you don't. You know a percentage of me because you see, 1% because you see me on the internet all the time. You don't know me. I mean, you can make assumptions, but anyways, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you can feel a bit empowered by the idea of love and light and that you can reclaim that. And that when someone talks about, maybe you meet someone that's like, I'm really into love and light, and instead of recoiling, you can be like, I really also love the embodiment of integration of shadow work. I think it's really beautiful. You can also start talking about these things and helping them understand the other sides of things and maybe giving someone else a new perspective. Um, but yeah. Anyways, I hope you have a great week. Bye.
Bye. See you next week.